The secret is out. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be drafting a top-tier quarterback in this year's draft class. So, if you've been following the Pittsburgh Steelers pre-draft process, they've been meeting with every single top-tier quarterback in this year's draft class. It doesn't matter if it's the projected number 1 pick or a later first-round draft pick. They've been meeting with them all. And Shedeur Sanders basically just warned everyone, don't let me fall to pick number 21, because then I'll be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So, before I get more into this, however, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, it's interesting to think that every Pittsburgh Steelers fan thinks that a defensive lineman is going to be the selection in round 1. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing their due diligence on basically all the first round quarterbacks and meeting with all of them and taking their time to bring them to the facility, taking their time even on the pro days to take them to dinner. And the last time the Steelers done that with the quarterback position, they end up taking Kenny Pickett in round 1. So the Pittsburgh Steelers need a quarterback. And many people know that they need a defense lineman, but they've been meeting with all the top tier quarterbacks in this year's draft class. And that could be the selection in round 1. And it looks like it will be. Because when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't hide what they're going to do. When you look at who they drafted last year, you look at the pre-draft visits they brought in, basically all their selections was people who they brought into the facility, people who they met with, and it showed. You look at the pre-draft process last year, they brought in Troy Fautanu, drafted him, brought in Zach Frazier, drafted him, Mason McCormick, Logan Lee, Beanie Bishop. All those guys who they brought in, they end up getting either in the draft or even undrafted guys that they signed after. So you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and they don't hide it. And they're bringing in defensive linemen too, but it's not the top tier guys. You look at the quarterbacks, they're bringing in all the top tier quarterbacks. And the Pittsburgh Steelers need a quarterback. They're not waiting around anymore. They look like they're going to be on the edge of their seats when it comes to drafting one. And a round 1 quarterback is probably in play for the Steelers at pick number 21, or even a trade-off option to kind of hop over a different team and select a quarterback. I brought up the fact that Pittsburgh Steelers, when going after a first-round quarterback years back when they drafted Kenny Pickett, they were interested in the quarterbacks, and you could see that. They're bringing them in for the pre-draft process. They're meeting with them, pro days, things of that nature. And when they need a quarterback, that's what they do. They go out and meet with them. But for example, last year when the Steelers needed a quarterback, even though they brought in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, they still kind of needed a quarterback, and they didn't bring one in. They didn't meet with the quarterbacks. So you knew that they weren't going to draft one. So when the Steelers bring them in, however, and they start meeting with them, then you know that they're interested in that quarterback room. And they're not going to bring in all the top tier quarterbacks, all the round 1 guys, if they weren't thinking about selecting a quarterback in round 1. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to waste one of their 30 visit slots on someone who's going to go round 1 if that pick is available, that they wouldn't draft them there. It just doesn't make sense. You're allowed 30 visits on the pre-draft process, and you're telling me the Steelers are going to waste it on like 5 first-round quarterbacks if they weren't actually thinking about a first-round quarterback? No, that's not going to happen. Meaning that if one of those guys fall to the Steelers, like Shedeur Sanders at pick number 21, that will be an option for them. The Steelers could bring in so many other players, whether that's defensive back position, linebackers. They could bring in just depth pieces, people who are going to go in the later rounds. They could bring them in on local visits or unlocal visits later on in the pre-draft process instead of the quarterback position, because then they'll get to know those guys better. But no, that's not what they did. They brought in the quarterbacks for a reason. So round 1 quarterback, if Shedeur Sanders falls, or if a different player falls, it will be the selection. And like I said earlier in the video, Shedeur Sanders on his interview with Kay Adams basically just warned the NFL about his interview process with the Steelers. He says it was a 10 out of 10. He says he loves Mike Tomlin, and basically he has qualities like his dad, and he's basically a similar coach as his dad. And he was basically told everyone that they have picked number 21. The Steelers have picked number 21. And it's up to the rest of the NFL to not let him go to the Steelers. There's 20 teams above the Steelers in the draft, and it's up to all of them to not let him slide to pick number 21. He basically just told everyone that, meaning that if he is available at pick number 21, you know the Steelers are selecting him, and they basically already told him that. So, Shedeur Sanders warns everyone, and this is basically your update saying, hey, the Steelers at quarterback in round 1 is a really good option, and it's probably going to happen. I know what many people are thinking, hey, you could go quarterback next season, but you have to really think. You might be in the same position as this year. You might not have a top tier pick. You might not have a pick in top 10. You may not have a pick in top 20. You may have a 21st pick again. So you saying that next year is the year for the draft class, you have to wait and see, because these players, these prospects, they could turn out like they did this year and not be a top tier quarterback draft class, because the hype around this quarterback group was really good, and this was supposed to be a good quarterback class, but then it died down and it wasn't as good anymore. So that could happen next season as well, and then you're waiting another year for a quarterback. So you have to think, hey, if a quarterback is there that the Steelers really like, that could hopefully be a franchise guy, why wouldn't they take them at pick number 21? You're always looking for your franchise quarterback. And if you truly believe that that guy is there at 21, you just have to make that selection. It has to be the selection, because you can't be in the quarterback realm and looking for a quarterback for many years. So if your guy is there and you're not reaching for your guy at 21 and you actually think he can be the guy, then you're going to select him. Selecting a quarterback that you believe could be the franchise quarterback for decades is a way better pick than just selecting a defense lineman, because you need a defense lineman behind Cameron Hayward and not Larry Ogunjobi, but Keanu Benton. You need a defense lineman, but are you really going to select a defense lineman over a franchise quarterback? No. So that's where the decision between the two comes into play. The Pittsburgh Steelers, when you look at the defensive line, yes, they need a defensive line, and you're looking at the depth there, but is that player really going to be a starter for them? Probably not. Because when you think about it, the Pittsburgh Steelers still have Cameron Hayward, still have Keanu Benton, and they only really play 2 inside defense linemen most of the time. They're playing 2 defense linemen and then those 2 edge rushers, and that's 4 right there along the defense line. That's what they're usually playing. They're not usually playing 3 defense linemen, other than sometimes on like rundowns. So it's not like they're that defense linemen's gonna be in the game all the time next season or even the year after. Cameron Hayward just signed a contract extension. I mean that he'll be around for a while now, and that defense lineman may not see the field for a couple years or 3 years down the line. So are you really going to draft a first round defense lineman for him barely to play? No, that's why it comes into play for a franchise quarterback, and that would be the pick over a defense lineman. Yes, you could say Cameron Hayward's getting old and things of that nature. You need rotation guys. You need another guy behind them. But are you going to draft someone's rotation guy, or are you going to draft a franchise guy? So you have to make that thought in your selection. And the Pittsburgh Steelers obviously are thinking about it. And even if they don't go round 1, a quarterback, a top tier quarterback will be in play. They didn't just meet with the first round guys. They met with the guys who are projected to maybe fall to round 2 or fall to round 3, like Jalen and Milroe. They met with all the quarterbacks. It's not just the first round guys that they met with, meaning that the quarterback position is a desire for them, and they want a quarterback from this year's draft class. So they met with first round guys, second round guys, third round guys, and a trade up option may be in play if one of those guys are falling too far and they want to trade up and get them. So the Pittsburgh Steelers secret is out. Quarterback is in play in round 1, and you can almost guarantee that they're going to draft one in this year's draft class. It doesn't matter what the round is. Anyway, that's it for me. That's the end of this video, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below basically on this topic of quarterback. Do you think the Steelers will select one in this year's draft class? And do you think that will be the pick at number 21 or in first round in general, even if they trade up? Do you want a quarterback? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you want Shedeur Sanders if he falls to 21? Or if the Steelers trade up for him? Or would you rather just go defensive line and keep it safe and get depth pieces? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports, everything surrounding the team I covered. The draft is right here, so I'm starting to cover the draft as well. Every new selection in the draft will be covered, an introduction to them. So comment down below, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications. And until next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.